Shalom Aleichem, Erev Tov, good evening. We are together 2 weeks before the holiday of Chanukah, B'ezrat Hashem, which is coming upon us and the whole Jewish people. A good time, good blessings, B'ezrat Hashem. I figure because we have 2 weeks to study, and we finished last week the last Seif in the Shulchan Aruch that we did, so we can open up the laws of Chanukah and begin to study them once this week, once next week. B'ezrat Hashem, by then you'll be ready for Chanukah, that will come the following week. If I see that we need an extra day for the laws of Chanukah, I'll add a Monday night class next week so we can cover as much ground as we need to cover, B'ezrat Hashem. The first thing you might ask me is, didn't we study the laws of Chanukah last year? Of course. And the year before, and if you've been here as long as Baruch has, probably almost 15 times already you say laws of Chanukah. Yeah? At least with me. I mean, it could be before. He studied even more than that. So.
That's good. We forgot it.
That's better than some people. Some people still remember. Avad Gedumim, they remember. So, the beautiful thing about the Torah is that it's amazing that it never changes. So the same Torah we got then is the same Torah we have now, which means inevitably you will come to repeat the Torah. The second is that even when you repeat something you studied before, you always learn it better the more that you know it. And perhaps the last reason is because we're not a Selfic Beit HaMidrash. And there's some people that weren't here last year, or 2 years ago, or 3 years ago. And so we're always able to review Torah again. That's why our Chachamim say, Shanu Chachamim B'lishon HaMishnah. Our rabbis, how do they become Chachamim? Tanu Rabbanan. They repeated their limud, their learning. And if I were to ask you questions on the laws of Chanukah from last year, then I wouldn't want to make anyone uncomfortable. So it's important that from time to time you review halachot, and the halachot of the holidays, a few weeks before the holidays is a good time to review them. Moshe Rabbenu instituted 30 days before certain holidays to review the halachot. We're not 30 days, but 2 weeks is good enough. So open together with me the Rambam's Mishneh Torah. I'll give you a copy in a second. If you're on Zoom, on Sefaria, you could look it up. Click halach, go to sefaria.org, click halacha, click Mishneh Torah, go to the book of Zemanim. In our books here, we're on page 305. Thank you. It's going to be chapter 3. Perek Shlishi. Essentially, Zemanim are all the laws of the holidays. And Rabbenu Rambam leaves the laws of Megillah, Chanukah, and Rosh Chodesh for the end, because those are rabbinic holidays. Very good, Chana. And because of that, they're in a different category than the other Yamim Tovim that we have. Let's get this one. Chapter 3. All the last one. Should say laws of Megillah and Chanukah. Scroll of Esther and Chanukah maybe. If somebody has a link, please post it in the chat box. It's also attached to the Google Classroom. I put a link there. So you could just go to the bottom of the Google Classroom. Yeah, Per Gimel. Says Rabbenu HaRambam. You see where I am? If you're not using a book, you can hand your book to somebody who is using a book. That way we have enough books for people. Page 305 in the books that you have in front of you. Bevayit Sheni. In the times of the second Beit HaMikdash. Keshemalchu Yavan. When the Greeks occupied Eretz Yisrael. The fact that we today are considered occupying our own homeland is a crazy thing. Because in this holiday of Chanukah, we're celebrating the victory over those who came and colonized our land. Gazru gezerot al Israel. They decreed decrees over the Jewish people. Uvitelu datam, and they uprooted our faith. V'lo hinichu otam la'asok b'Torah v'mitzvot, and they did not leave us to be able to observe Torah and mitzvot. Ufashtu yadam b'mamonam uvivnotehem, and they sent their hands to take our money and our daughters. So just so you know, we're talking about the year 167. It's before the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash here. Let me read to you from the Gemara Masechet Ketubot, so you know what we mean when we say they were taking our daughters. We have entire codes of halakha, entire codes that are dedicated to what do we do when, and then when you tell people what the when is, lo yuman ki supal, that we have to have halachot for these kind of things. Our HaShamayim have a conversation about what day of the week Jewish women get married. I know that we have children here, so I'll be careful. Our rabbis say that it used to be that Jewish people shakdu chachamim al takanat benot Israel. Ketubot, page 3b. Our chachamim instituted, they were diligent in promoting the welfare of Jewish daughters. Shi adam toreach bisuda shlosha yamim. That a person should busy himself with preparing for the wedding for 3 days. Echad b'Shabbat, v'sheni b'Shabbat, u'shlishi b'Shabbat. On Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, you prepare for a Jewish wedding. U'varvi'i, and on Wednesday, konesa. That's when he marries her. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, they got married. When does Wednesday start? Tuesday night. What you call Tuesday night, our Chachamim, that's called Wednesday. Umisakana ve'elach, and from when it became dangerous and onward, meaning when it became dangerous for Jewish people to get married on Wednesday, nahagu ha'am lichnos b'shlishi. The nation developed a custom to get married on Tuesday. V'lo michu b'yadam chachamim, and the sages did not object to this practice of violating Jewish tradition to get married on a Tuesday. Still, but Chachamim made a takana, so they wanted people to follow it. Yeah, to give people time to prepare for the wedding. My sakana. Chachamim say, what was the danger? Ilema da'amre betula haniset liyom harvi'i. If you tell me that the government said that a woman who gets married on Wednesday will be killed, which government? The Greeks, the Romans, whoever you're talking about here, the Goyim that are occupying Eretz Israel. Then, legamre nakere, we should just uproot marriage entirely. If Jewish women getting married is a crime, they shouldn't get married any day of the week. Amar Rabba, Rabba said, De'amre betula haniset b'yom harvi'i tiba'e lahegmon techila. Rather, the decree they made on us was that before a Jewish woman could marry her husband, she would have to marry the governor first. So no Jewish man could marry his wife until the Greek general who was there had relations with his wife first. And that leads Chachamim to all kinds of calculations. Is that a life-threatening danger? Do you change a minhag because of that? All kinds of things. I'm not here to teach about that. But we have pages here in the Talmud all about what happens when the non-Jewish government makes a law that they rape our daughters in order so they can get married. What do we do then? The same animals of Greece are still alive today. They just move locations. They change their name a little bit. They go from Antiochus to Ahmed. They have all kinds of names they have. But same enemies of Am Yisrael. Here, they decided to take our money and our daughters. Says Rabbenu Rambam, v'nichnesu lahechal, and they entered our hechal. What is the hechal? It's the holiest part. It's the central part of the Beit HaMikdash. Beit HaMikdash is a compound. The middle, the center part is a hechal. Ufartzu bo piratzot v'timeu hateharot, and they did all kinds of damage there. They broke the gates and the walls. They made things impure. V'tzar lehem liYisrael me'od mipenehem, and the Jewish people suffered tremendously because of that. Ulchatzum lachatz gadol, and they pressured us tremendously. Ad sherichem alehem Elohei avotenu, until our God, the God of our fathers, had compassion on us. V'hoshi'am yadam, and He saved us from their hands. V'gavru bnei Hashmonai kohanim hagedolim v'haragum. And how did HaKadosh Baruch Hu save us? Through the hands of the Hashmonaim. Who are the Hashmonaim? Tell me, you know the story. Yeah.
Eventually overstayed as leaders, but in time they were farming who fit against the Roman Jews,
The
Greek Jews, Greek
Yeah.
Jews, and the Greeks.
Who led them?
Matityahu.
Yeah, right? Matityahu Kohen Gadol Uvanav and his children. Very good. Elchanan. So when we say, how did HaKadosh Baruch Hu save the Jewish people? By sending Jewish soldiers to save the Jewish people. You hear that? All of the people waiting for miracles that don't involve us being involved never read the story of Chanukah. It doesn't surprise me that in the Jewish community, so much of Chanukah is about donuts and presents for Christmas and all kinds of lights and who knows what else and what's it called? There's a bad holiday for him to celebrate. What's the Jewish Santa? What's his name?
The mensch on the bench.
The mensch on the bench, mensch on the bench, a blue guy with all kinds of stupid things they talk about, latkes and levivot and oil and that, all of these things, so they don't have to focus on the real story, which is, how does HaKadosh Baruch Hu save the Jewish people? When the Jewish people save themselves. And He lets them win. That's called HaKadosh Baruch Hu saving the Jewish people. Ve'emidu melech min hakohanim. They saved the Jewish people, and they made a king from the Kohanim. V'chazra malchut liYisrael yater al 200 shana. And we returned the kingdom to the Jewish people for over 200 years. By the way, a good kingdom or a bad kingdom? It wasn't a good kingdom, right? The early generation, yes, of the Hashmonaim. Later generations, they weren't righteous. They were not supposed to be Kohanim that were leading. But we celebrate the story of Chanukah, that we had Jewish autonomy in Eretz Israel, even though it was not perfect. It wasn't perfect. I'm sure that also in the story of Chanukah, you had Jews saying, well, if the prime minister was religious, if the army followed the Torah, all the same things they said then, they also said it now. But we celebrate the story of Chanukah, that we didn't get a good government, but it was better. Any government of Jews is better than a Greek government. Ad HaChurban HaSheni, until the second Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, which according to the Rambam, his tradition is that was the year 3,829 since the creation of the world, which is the year 69. So Rabbenu HaRambam tells you the story of Chanukah was, part one, We won a war. Part 2, now. וכשגברו ישראל אויביהם ויבדום. And when the Jewish people rose up against their enemies and they destroyed them. How do you rise up against your enemies? How? By destroying them. What does it mean you won a war, but your enemy is still alive? What does it mean? It means you lost the war. That's what it means. The only way to win the war is that your enemy doesn't survive the war. That's the way to win the war. So HaShamayim, yeah, everything is. That's why we say the blessing. Oh, it's the same story as then, the same story now. Yeah, and really that's not pshat. B'yamim b'zman hazeh means a miracle that happened on those days. B'zman hazeh, on this date of the 25th of Kislev. That's what it means. B'zman hazeh. Yeah, that's pshat. What that blessing means. But also the same idea is ma shaya hu sheyeh. The world keeps going and going. Nothing is new. The history repeats itself. And in the past, I've spent a significant amount of time on these first 2 paragraphs. That's why I'm not spending a significant amount of time on them right now. I want to finish with you the Rambam laws of Chanukah, so you're prepared for Chanukah when it comes. B'chamisha ve'esrim b'chodesh Kislev haya. It was the 25th of the month of Kislev. That is this year, on December 14th at night. That's going to be the 25th of Kislev. V'nichnesu lahechan. And our Kohanim that won the war, they enter the Beit HaMikdash. V'lo matzeu shemen tahor. And they did not find pure olive oil. Ela pach echad. Only 1 jug of olive oil they found. V'lo haya bo lehadlik ela yom echad bilvad. And they only had enough oil the last 1 day. You know the story? V'idliku mimenu nerot ha'ma'aracha shemona yamim. And they lit the candles of the Mikdash, the lamps of the Mikdash, for 8 days. Ad shekachu zetim v'otziu shemen tahor. Until they had time to press new olives that would be pure olive oil. And because of this, hitkinu chachamim shebeoto hador, the rabbis that were alive in that generation of Chanukah, shiyu shemonat ha'yamim ha'elu, that these 8 days should be שתחילתה מלילי 5 ו-20 בכסלו, that begin on the 25th of Kislev, ימי שמחה והלל. There should be days of happiness and what's Halel?
Thanks.
Praise, thanksgiving to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Jewish Thanksgiving is Chanukah. ומדליקין בהן הנרות בערב על פתחי הבתים בכל לילה ולילה משמונת הלילות. And we light the Chanukah candles for 8 nights, where? Outside of the front doors of our homes. So we light Chanukah candles outside. That's the way that our Chachamim instituted this mitzvah. By the way, the word Chanukah, just so you should know, Rambam explains that the word chinuch in general means chinuch means education. We use that word, chinuch, because the word chinuch in Hebrew is synonymous to the word hergel, to become accustomed to something. We call the education of children chinuch because we are training them to get used to being Jewish so that when they grow up, they actually will be Jewish. So the same thing when you start any project, it's called Chanukat HaMizbeach, Chanukat HaBayit, Chanukat, why? It means we are getting used to doing this thing here. That's the root of the word chinuch, Chanukah. V'yamim elu hem hanikra'in Chanukah. And these days are called Chanukah. V'hen asurin besefed, and it's forbidden to eulogize on them. What does that mean?
If someone died, we don't.
If someone dies, we don't speak about them sad things at their funeral. V'ta'anit, we don't fast. Kimei Purim, just like the holiday of Purim. V'hadlakat hanerot behem mitzvah midivre sofrim ki kriyat hamegillah. And lighting candles on Chanukah is the same status of halakha. Midivre sofrim means from the scribes. Who are the scribes? The Chachamim. That is the same level as when we read the Megillah on Purim. That's both rabbinic mitzvot. Both rabbinic mitzvot, which we say about them, Asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hadlik ner Chanukah, or to read the Megillah, or Nitilat Yadayim, or lighting candles, or all kinds of mitzvot that our rabbis gave us, and we say Asher Kiddishanu Zavitzivanu, that Kadosh Baruch Hu commanded us to listen to our Chachamim, who told us to light Chanukah candles.
Another meaning for Chanukah is...
Right, but I'm now only doing the Rambam's meanings of Chanukah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's a Baruch Hashem. We are more than what is written here exists, but I'm intentionally teaching you the Rambam to keep your Judaism simple. Yes. Kol shechayav b'kriyat haMegillah. Anybody who's obligated to read the Megillah, who's obligated to read the Megillah? We learned the laws of Megillah recently. Who's everybody? Michael? Jewish men, Jewish women, and children whom reach the age of chinuch. Now, bar mitzvah, they're already men. Yeah? 9, 10, 7, 8, depending who your kid is. Somewhere around there. Kol shechayav b'kriyat haMegillah, anyone who's obligated to read the Megillah, chayav b'adakat ner Chanukah, is obligated also to light Chanukah. Now, I keep saying in English, we say Chanukah candles. Let me make it very clear to you. Only if you have no choice, you should be lighting Chanukah candles. You should be lighting Chanukah oil. Because the miracle of Chanukah happened with oil. And because your candles have to last for at least half an hour. And when you light with the candles that you buy for $3.99 at Walmart or Rite Aid or Target, they last for exactly 3 seconds. Or 3 minutes and 99 seconds. Or whatever you have, but they don't last you for 30 minutes. It's important to, if you can, how much does it cost to buy oil today? Olive oil went up, but if you want to buy pre-filled olive oil cups like we have here, $30, $40, $25. You can't afford it, we'll help you out. You should light oil in your house on Chanukah, period. More important than having a nice silver Chanukah, more important is to use olive oil. I know you can use all the candles. I know the halakha. I'm telling you what is better. V'amadlik otah balayla rishon, and whoever lights the Chanukiah. Now, even that word Chanukiah, in rabbinic literature, there is no word for that thing. It doesn't have a name. The Ashkenazim get very mad when you call that a menorah. Why do they get mad? I don't know why, actually, to tell you the truth. But it has to do, not all Ashkenazim for sure get mad, only the ones that don't know Hebrew. Because in Hebrew, we call that a menorah. And we call the one in here a menorah. And we call the one in your bedside table a menorah. And we call everything that gives light is a menorah. The menorah that you talk about in the Beit HaMikdash had 7 branches. And this one has 8. By the way, half the reason we have 8 here, according to some of the Chachamim, is because you're not allowed to build a menorah of 7. Right? Because you have to destroy it. But at the very least, that you can call it a menorah. Don't correct people, they say menorah. Israelis, they use a word. It's a word they call it Chanukiah. Okay, that's also a word you could use. Most Sephardim just referred to that as Chanukah. You light a Chanukah. You like it, you don't like it, I'm just telling you how it is. But you can call that whatever you want. Likely, I will say Chanukiah or menorah interchangeably. Yeah.
I want to go back to then you light the candle on your door. So when you do the blessing of the house.
Next week, we're going to talk about where we light the Chanukah candles.
Okay.
That is just, he's introducing it because chapter 4 is talking about where we light it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah? If you want, you can skip ahead and look. והמדליק אותה בלילה הראשון מברך 3 ברכות. You light the Chanukiah the first night, you say 3 blessings. Blessing number 1, ברוך אתה השם אלוקינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו. להדליק נר, the Rambam's version here is one word, של החנוכה. In all Old Hebrew, the word shel is part of the word that follows it. Only in later Hebrew, shel and the next word become separate from each other. So that leaves now 2 minhagim left in the Jewish community. Most Sephardim say the blessing, the Hadlik Ner Chanukah. But many Sephardim, and almost all the Ashkenazim, minus some Hasidim, they say the Hadlik Ner Shel Chanukah. I don't have a preference how you do it. Either one is a valid blessing that we have here. That's blessing number one. You've commanded us to light the Chanukah candles. Next blessing. Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam she'asa nisim la'avotenu bayamim hahem bazman hazeh. That you made miracles for our forefathers at this time in those days. And the last bracha that you only say the first night. Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam shehecheyanu v'kiyemanu v'higi'anu lazeman hazeh. Thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for letting us live until this day. It's a moment that you are thankful for. V'chol haroeh ota. And anybody who sees someone else's Chanukiah. And the Rabbenu HaRambam is going to explain the details of this in the next chapter. Mevarech shetayim. So when you light Chanukah candles, you say 3 blessings. When you see someone else light Chanukah candles, you recite 2 blessings. She'asa nisim la'avotenu and she'echiyanu. That is true, even if you already said the blessing, and even if you already said the blessing a few times. I'll give you an example. According to Rabbenu Rambam in his Teshuvot, let's say I live in Yerushalayim. One day we'll live back again in Yerushalayim. And I light my Chanukiah outside. I say the blessing for lighting candles, the blessing for miracles, the blessing for letting me live until today. Then I walk down the street to the Beit HaKnesset. Yes? I want to go study Torah, give a shiur. And I walk by, who's my neighbor in Yerushalayim? Michael. I walk by Michael's house. Michael just finished lighting his candles. I look at Michael's Chanukiah and I say, She'asa nisim la'avotenu bayamim hahem bazman hazeh shehechiyanu v'kiyemanu v'higi'anu lazman hazeh. Maybe hold off on the shehechiyanu, but for sure I say the blessing She'asa nisim la'avotenu. Now I walk by, who's Michael's neighbor? Who? Rosie. Okay. Rosie and Arturo, they're living next door to Michael. Michael, what it means is, no matter where you're going to move, they're chasing you. Okay, like that.
My father always tells me you can't run away from your problems.
That's right. So now I come by Arturo's house and he just finished lighting the Chanukiah. I say, Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu she'asa nisim la'avotenu bayamim hahem bazman hazeh. How many times? Until I get to the Beit HaKnesset, according to the Rambam. That's part of the mitzvah of Chanukah. Yes. Oh, every day. Every day. Because Jews and Judaism have a little disconnect. What, Baruch?
You'd be very busy
saying brachot, Baruch Hashem.
Regardless if it's oil, Hanukkah, or...
As long as it's kasher and it's within the right time period. We're going to talk about that next week. Now,
like in the old city, so many menorot.
Yeah, that's what Baruch is saying. Until you get to the kotel, you're gonna be you're not gonna be so many brachot. Baruch Hashem.
Could you say one bracha to cover them all?
Probably. I'll tell you the problem. The problem is that really they shouldn't light that many Chanukiot outside of a building. That's next week's class. It's a mistake. But for right now, let's just say each one. Say bracha each one. You know, in Yerushalayim, many people have inside of their house, you know, the walls made out of bricks. They have one brick that they take it out, and it has a glass window, and you put your Chanukiah the whole year inside of that brick that's empty, and that's where you put your Chanukiah. That's where you light it. Bless me, Elchanan, I should have a house in Yerushalayim. Then for there, I'll put as many Chanukiot as HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants me to put. That itself, you can make a miracle for that blessing. ובשאר הלילות, and the rest of the nights, המדליק מברך 2, והרואה מברך 1, שאין מברכים שהחיינו אלא בלילה הראשון. From that night onwards, the one who says the blessing says 2 blessings, for lighting and for miracles, and you who sees his Chanukiah, you only recite the blessing of the miracles. And that's for all the nights of Chanukah the same way. Now you might begin to understand the story of why we light outside is Mishum Pirsumei Nisa, to publicize the miracle of Chanukah. We always say that, right? When you put your Chanukiah outside where someone else can see it, now you are causing them to say a blessing over the seeing of a Chanukiah. Something which doesn't happen when you light your candles inside the house. Because how can I say a blessing if I can't see it? So when you put the Chanukah outside, you're making an opportunity for as many people who pass by your house as possible to be able to recite berachot over your Chanukah. Now, the Rambam has told us enough about Chanukah, and he says, I told you that there's a mitzvah to light candles. I also told you there's a mitzvah to be happy. I also told you there's a mitzvah to give thanks to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The word he used was lehalel, to give thanks. Lehalel is now going to be the rest of the halachot for tonight, are going to be the laws of the Halel. Okay? Now, if you want, in your Sefaria, so in your Google Classroom, I attached a copy of the Yemenite Halel. We're going to look at it in a minute, but first, let me read to you these halachot. Halakha number 5. B'chol yom vayom mishemonat hayamim ha'elu gomrin et Halel. On all 8 days of Chanukah, we finish the Halel. What does it mean, finish the Halel? We say the full Halel. There's a half Halel and a full. We say the full one. Umvarech lefanav, and before you recite the full Halel, you say, Baruch atah Hashem, Elokeinu melech haolam, asher kideshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu, that you commanded us, ligmor et Halel, to finish the Halel. The Ashkenazim famously do not say this bracha. Which bracha do they say? Likro et Halel, to read the Halel. Why do they say that bracha? It's not what's written in the Talmud. Why do they say the bracha? No, on full Halel they say Likro et Halel. Ashkenazim never say Ligmor et Halel. Why? Likro, to read the Halel, not to finish the Halel.
Because they're not going to finish. Only one person will finish it.
That's close, actually. They're afraid of what happens if you miss one word or one letter, that you won't finish the whole Halel and now you said a blessing in vain. It's a very classic approach to halakha. Ligmor et Halel is the blessing you say. Ben Yachid, Ben Tzibur, whether you are an individual or you are a community. Af al pi shekriyat Halel mitzvah midivrei sofrim, even though Halel is a rabbinic mitzvah, mevarech aleh asher kideshanu mitzvah v'tzivanu, kederech shemevarech al hamegillah aval ha'eruv. The same way that you say a blessing over the Megillah, over the eruv, you still say a blessing over the reading of the Halel. What kind of eruvim do you have? How many eruvim do you know? Because eruv, ha-eruv means that eruv, but really, there's more than one kind of eruv. Eruv tavshilin. What do we call Ima eruv Shabbat? What do we call that one? Eruv chatzerot, very good. And eruv? Tchumin, very good. Eruv techumin means you're not allowed to walk past your city more than 2,000 amot. But let's say you want to go farther than that. So before Shabbat, you designate a place where you leave food. And that's where your city ends so that you can walk another 2,000 amot beyond there. How many of you guys have experience with that? When you walk to the Rebbe in Givat Ze'ev, they have to be able to walk, so they make all kinds of matzot. What do they put out there? Tents and food. Okay. You have eruv. They put food inside of a tent every 2,000 amot so they can keep walking. Don't worry. You ask them. You ask also how you build. So I don't know I don't know what they do. I wasn't there. Eruv chatzerot. What is eruv chatzerot? It's what you call the eruv. When people want to be able to carry together, you have to turn the whole neighborhood into one house. So you put food in different places that unites all the chatzerot. It's not exactly what you think of when you think of an eruv. And last is eruv tafshilin. If you want to cook today for tonight, which is Shabbat. Today is a Yom Tov and tonight is Shabbat. How do you do that?
You put some food in.
Very good. Again, to do with food. So eruv Rambam means all three of them. You say a blessing over them. The way you recite a blessing over rabbinic mitzvot, it's the same way you say a blessing over the Chanukah. Shekol vadai shledivrehem mevarchin alav. Because everything that is certain, a halakha from them, we recite a blessing over it. Avad davar shu midivrehem, but a halakha that comes from the rabbis. V'ikar asiyatam lo mipnei safek. But the only reason we do them is because of a doubt. Kigon maaser demai. What is maaser demai? What is demai? Achanan, you read demai. What do you say? Ava maaser nida demai. What we're talking about? What is the demai?
This is what? I'm not sure if it's that myself.
Someone has grains, food. You're not sure they took from here maaser or not, right? Now, why are you not sure?
You didn't buy
Sure certification on it.
Who did you buy it from?
person at the market who were Jews who said they took master.
But you can trust a Jewish person in the market.
A non-Jew.
From non-Jews. To buy from non-Jews.
They're not enforced.
Right, so who are we talking about here?
Slaves.
And Am Haaretz, thank you, Chesky. Again, a whole week we're beating up his Am Haaretz. Yesterday, last week, Shabbat, Am Haaretz. Am Haaretz is a person who they don't know Torah well. They don't know. You tell them, they come to your house, they say, oh my gosh, you drink water on Pesach? But the OU said the water is chametz. Am Haaretz. That's Am Haaretz. Yeah. You go to his house, he has aluminum foil on his counter on Pesach. Am Haaretz. Am Haaretz. You see a person comes to the Beit HaKnesset, doesn't know how to hold the siddur upside down. Am Haaretz. Am Haaretz. He tells you he took maaser from the food. You can't trust him. He doesn't know what maaser looks like. By the way, the person who says water is chametz on Pesach, you're allowed to eat in his house on Pesach? Of course not.
No.
Of course not. Because this person doesn't know halakha. If they don't know halakha, how do you trust them? I can eat in your house on Pesach, I trust your halakha. But the moment you start to go a little crazy in halakha, how can I trust you? So Am Haaretz is a person, you take maaser from his food because you don't believe him that he really did the job the first time. That's why, Elchanan, that even though we don't take maaser in this time period of Erev Shabbat, Aval maaserin et ademai, you can take it from here. Why? Because it's not really. You understand? So, vehem velama mevarchim ad Yom Tov Sheni. So, why do we say the blessing then on the second day of Yom Tov? The second day of Yom Tov is a doubt, right? That's why we do 2 days of Yom Tov. Are you still with me? Yeah. Vehem lo tikenuhu ela mipnei hasafek. They made the second day because of a safek. Says Rabbenu HaRambam, kedeh shelo yizalzelu bo. Our rabbis made a special rule by the second day of Yom Tov that you recite all the blessings even though it's a doubt. Why? So people don't come to say, second day of Yom Tov is not really Yom Tov.
So why is it better lighting of candles? We don't take the blessing because it's already light.
We do say blessing by lighting candles.
The second day.
If you have a dark room, you say a blessing also. Just in our Kehillat, I tell people that electricity is on, they shouldn't say a blessing. Don't.
The first time neither.
If the light is on, also, same thing. Halakha Vav. Velo Halel Chanukah bilvad hu shemidivrei sofrim. Not only is the Halel of Chanukah rabbinic, אלא קריאת ההלל לעולם מדברי סופרים, בכל הימים שגורמים מהם את ההלל. All of the days that you read Halel is rabbinic. ו18 יום בשנה, מצווה לגמור בהם את ההלל. There are 18 days that you have an obligation to finish the Halel. ואלו הם. שמונת ימי החג, the 8 days of the holiday. Which holiday? סוכות. ו8 ימי חנוכה, the 8 days of? Right. וראשון של הפסח, and the first day of Pesach. ויום עצרת, and the day of? שבועות. אבל ראש השנה ויום הכיפורים אין בהם הלל. Hanan, you're right. We said Sukkot 8 days, right? So we're including the 8th day of Shemini Atzeret. You right? So the Rambam threw a curveball. Atzeret, we really mean Shavuot. Okay, you were right. Don't worry. It's interesting. Rambam puts Sukkot and Shemini Atzeret together. Yeah. So, אבל ראש השנה ויום הכיפורים. No. אבל ראש השנה. Yeah.
From Pesach to Shavuot, it's a connection that's 50 days.
Rabbi Ahmed was connecting Shemini Atzeret and Shavuot. They're both Jewish holidays. לפי ראש השנה and יום הכיפורים אין בהם הלל. You don't have הלל, not ראש השנה, not יום הכיפורים. Why? לפי שהם ימי תשובה, ויראה ופחד. Because there are days of teshuvah, of awe, of fear, לא ימי שמחה יתרה, not days of extra happiness. ולא תיקנו הלל בפורים, and they did not institute a blessing, Hallel on Purim, שקריאת המגילה היא ההלל, because the reading of the Megillah that we read on Purim, that is the Hallel of Purim. הלכה זין, says Rabbenu Rambam, מקומות שעושים ימים טובים שני ימים, in a place where you observe a holiday for 2 days, like outside of Israel,
בגלות.
yeah, גומרים את ההלל באחד ו-20 יום. We finish the Hallel on 21 days, meaning there's 3 extra days of Hallel that we don't have in Eretz Israel. בתשעת ימי אחד, the 9 days of Sukkot, ושמונת ימי חנוכה, and 8 days of Chanukah, ושני ימים של הפסח, see again, של הפסח, and 8 days, the 2 days of the first 8 days of, the first 2 of the 8 days of Pesach, ושני ימים של העצרת, and the 2 days of Shavuot. אבל בראשי חודשים, but on ראש חודש, קריאת ההלל מנהג. The reading of Hallel on Rosh Chodesh is a custom. Ve'ena mitzvah, and it was not instituted by our rabbis. Who made the minhag of Hallel on Rosh Chodesh? The Nevi'im, the prophets, but it was not instituted as a halakha. And therefore, uminhag zeh batzibur. This minhag is only when you are with a minyan in a community. Lefichach korim bedilug, and therefore we read it only what they call the half Hallel. We skip parts of the Hallel. Ve'en mevarchin alav, and we do not say a blessing on the half Hallel. She'en mevarchim ala minhag, because you do not recite blessings over minhagim, like when we do the arava on Hoshana Rabbah. We say chavit, chavit, we hit, ve la barich, and we don't bless. Why? Because it's a minhag. It's not a halakha. Listen to the Rambam, because nobody here does this. V'yachid lo yikra klal. A yachid, an individual who's praying. Let's say you're praying shacharit of Rosh Chodesh in your house. You don't read Hallel at all on Rosh Chodesh. V'im hitchil, and if you began to read, yashlim bedilug. So continue, but only the half Hallel. Kederech shekorim atzibur, the same way they do it in the community. Rav Kapach writes that even in Yemen, the minhag was to read a half Hallel at home. But the Rambam mentions that the original minhag is that if you're praying alone on Rosh Chodesh, you don't say Hallel at all. It's a minhag that was instituted only in a community.
So how do we hold this?
We say Hallel here on Rosh Chodesh, any ways that it goes, and you say Hallel alone. At the end of the day, you're saying Tehillim, right? But that's obviously not in accordance with the opinion of the Rambam. וכן בשאר ימי הפסח קוראים בדילוג כראשי חודשים. And on the 6 days of Pesach, you read a half Hallel like on Rosh Chodesh, and of course he doesn't tell you what do you do on your own. Rav Kapach has some notes here on that. It's beyond the scope of today's conversation. Chet. Ketzad medalagin. How do we skip? Can someone hand out quickly some sidurim, please? A brown sidurim. Everyone should have a brown sidur. If you are on Sefaria or on Zoom, just get yourself any sidur that you use. And if you can give me one first, I would appreciate it. On page 490 in the Sidurim. Careful. I'll tell you the truth, when people go to shiurim sometimes, like what is the hidden secret of the blue part of the flame of the Chanukah candle on the 3rd night of Chanukah? And I don't know how they have time for those kind of shiurim, because look, we're sitting here learning the Rambam, we need to know things we actually need to know in our life. People don't know them. And they have time to go look at what is the secret of the blue fire in the 3rd night of Chanukah.
On page 490.
They learn things that I never heard where they came from. So now it's Hallel, yeah. So in our community, we B'Reshut Morai V'Rabotai, and we say a blessing. It says here, on days when we say full Hallel, Ligmor et Hallel. On days when we say half Hallel, Likro et Hallel. That is according to the Moroccan custom that says a blessing on the half Hallel. Okay? Here we're learning the Rambam now. So page 490. What is Hallel really? It's Tehillim 113, 114, 115, 116, 117, 118, until the end. So it's those chapters of Tehillim, they make up Hallel. Okay? So now keep the Siddur open. So full Hallel means you read from page 490 all the way till 493. You don't skip anything. That's what it means, full Hallel. What is half Hallel? Poskim don't use the word half Hallel. It's a Hallel b'dilug. It's a skipping Hallel. Matchilin mitchilat Hallel. You begin the beginning of Hallel. Hallelujah. Hallelujah Adonai. Right? You go there. And you continue ad chalamish lemayeno mayim. Where is chalamish lemayeno mayim? The bottom of page 490. So you say chapter 113, chapter 114, and then you skip. Where do you skip to? V'doleg, and you skip. Ve'omer Adonai zecharanu yivarech, and you go to the page 491, Tehillim 115. So the gray box, that's the Tehillim that you skip on a month where you say Hallel b'dilug, half Hallel. Ad Hallelujah until the Hallelujah, which is the end of chapter 115. Umdaleg ve'omer ma ashiv l'Adonai ad Hallelujah. And then you say on page 492, Tehillim 116, from ma ashiv l'Adonai until Betochechi Yerushalayim Hallelujah. And then, where do you go from there? Vomer Min hametzah karatiya at sof Hallel, but probably he means the Hallelujah of 117. And then you say min hametzah, zeh haminhag hapashut. And this is the common minhag. V'yesh medalgim dilug acher, and there are those that they skip differently, meaning they do like what we do. They don't skip the Hodul Adonai Kitov between Ma'ashiv and Min HaMetzah. And that seems to be the more common minhag that we see in the Jewish community today. Now, let's keep reading. Halakha Tet, keep your Siddur open, okay? Don't put it away. Kol hayom kasher l'kirat Hallel. The whole day is kasher to read the Hallel. From sunrise till sunset. V'akoreh Hallel mafreya, and if you read the Hallel backwards, like the ending Pesukim the other direction, lo yatsa, you did not fulfill the mitzvah. Kara v'shaha v'chazar v'kara, if you read and you took a break, and then you read, af api sheshaha kedei legmor et kulo yatsa, even if you took a break in the middle of Hallel for 15 minutes, enough time to say the whole Hallel, you still fulfill the mitzvah. ימים שגומרים בהם את ההלל, יש להפסיק בין פרק לפרק, אבל באמצע הפרק לא יפסיק. On the days that you say a blessing on the Hallel, the whole Hallel, if you need to interrupt, you stop between the paragraphs. אבל באמצע הפרק לא יפסיק, in the middle of the chapter you never stop. וימים שקוראים בהן בדילוג, אפילו באמצע הפרק פוסק. And on the days that you read Hallel, skipping, half Hallel, even in the middle of a chapter, you can stop. Kol yom, halakha yod, 10. Kol yom shegomrim bo Hallel. Every day that you read the Hallel, a full Hallel, mevarech lefanav. You say a blessing before the Hallel. Umakom shenagu levarech acharav mevarech. And in a place they have a custom to recite a blessing afterwards, you recite a blessing afterwards. Ketan mevarech, what is the blessing after the Hallel? I'm going to be honest with you. Harav Kapach has a few words that are different here. I'm just reading to you what's in front of us in our book, okay? יעללוך אדוני אלוהינו כל מעשיך, וחסידיך, וצדיקים, עושה רצונך, וכל עמך בית ישראל ברנה יודו לשמך. That we praise you, Adonai our God, all of your creations, your chasidim, your tzadikim, all of those who do your will, the whole house of Israel, enjoy, they give thanks to your name. כי אתה אדוני לך טוב להודות, ושמך נעים לזמר. Because to you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it is proper to sing and to be happy, to praise. ומעולם ועד עולם אתה האל, it says here. Then you are the king, the God from this world to the next world. ברוך אתה אדוני, blessed are you, Hashem, המלך, המשובח, המפואר, חי וקיים, Tamid Yimloch Leolam Ve'ed. We have in our Siddur a little bit of a different blessing. But you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who is praised, who is glorified, who is alive, who exists, you will forever be the king. הלכה י"א, יש מקומות שנהגו לכפול מעודך כי עניתני עד סוף ההלל. Go to page 493. עודך כי עניתני ותהי לי לישועה. Says some people have a minhag that they repeat these pesukim from here until the end of the Hallel, right? So we do that. Look, Odecha, we repeat. Even Masu, we repeat. Met Adonai, Ana Adonai Yoshiana, Atzlichana, we repeat. Baruch haba b'shem Adonai, Eli Yatev Odeka, Hodad HaKitov. All of those we repeat. Koflin kol davar v'davar sheteh pamim. They repeat everything twice. Umakom shenagul lichpol, lichpol. In a place where they have a custom to repeat things twice, they do it. Umakom shenagul shelo lichpol and koflin. In a place where they have a minhag not to repeat, you don't repeat it. By the way, you'll notice in our Sidurim, probably something you never noticed before. In Morocco, there was an interesting minhag. They repeat Odecha. You see why Odecha? There's a little Odecha at the end. You see that? Even Masu Abonim, you see that? There's a little Even at the end. You see what I'm talking about? Page 493. Met Adonai Tazot, again there's a little Me'et. Zayom Asa Adonai, there's a Zayom. An Adonai Yoshena, Amazichana, they repeat, yes. Now look at the next part. Baruch haba b'shem Adonai, Berach luchem mibet Adonai, El Adonai v'er lanu yisuchag ba'avotim, ad karnot ha'mizbeach. It doesn't have any little words. In Morocco, they have minhag not to repeat those two pesukim, only to do Eli Yatav Odeka and Hodul Adonai Kitov. That's why it's missing over there. It's not a typo in the Siddur. That's the minhag. We don't do that here, but that's the minhag that they have over there. Sometimes people come to me and say, Rabbi, it says over here that in Morocco we stood up. I said, good, I'm not in Morocco, I'm San Diego. I don't know what you want from my life. This is just the best Siddur that I could pull off for us in Hebrew and English. We didn't sign up to all the minhagim that are written inside of the Siddur. And here, my friends, is the most exciting part for my shiur tonight, for me. Okay? And I was very disappointed this summer, because I prayed, I was 3 Shabbatot in Israel, and we ended up praying all 3 Shabbatot in a Yemenite Beit HaKnesset, in different Yemenite Beit HaKnesset. And I was very excited to do Hallel on Rosh Chodesh in a Yemenite Beit HaKnesset, so my children would hear what does the Hallel sound like. And then I went there and I saw, they don't do it like my grandfather did it. They don't do it. And they still do it. Good, Baruch Hashem. By the way, in a few recordings that I found on the internet, it says Hallel Nosach Teman. They don't do it. I don't know what makes it Nosach Teman, just that you read it with the Yemenite accent. I don't care about the actual accent you read. I want the minhag is like the Rambam. The only community in the world that still says Hallel the way the Rambam said Hallel is the Yemenite community. I want you to look from here, focus, okay? Minhag Kiryat Hallel b'yemei Chachamim harishonim kach haya. The way that the early Chachamim read the Hallel was like this. Go back to page 490. And if you want, open up your PDF. Can I borrow your book? Open up your PDF. I attached there Hallel Yemenite custom as a PDF and also as an image. It might be here. Tell me that it's here. It's not here. Why did they do it? No. In my Rambam it is. One second. Maybe in the laws of Tefillah. I don't know this edition at all. I never use it. No, I got it. One second. Give me a second. The books that you have in front of you are different than my books. Yeah. Maybe. No. Okay, use the PDF that I attached. It's a Hallel. One page, it looks like this. All right. מנהג קריאת ההלל בימי החכמים הראשונים כך היה. This is the way the early חכמים read הלל. אחר שמברך הגדול, שמקרא את ההלל, the greatest one in the community, he's the one who reads the Hallel. And today we let the Chazan read the Hallel, let the kids read the Hallel. But it used to be once upon a time here, only the rabbi read the Hallel. But my job is to make sure everybody else knows how to read the Hallel. That's why I'm not particularly here. Everybody should read the Hallel. But the one who leads the Hallel says, Matchil v'omer, Hallelujah. The first Hallelujah on page 490. V'chol ha'am onin, and everybody responds, the Beit HaKnesset, Hallelujah. And then he says, וחוזר ואומר, הללו עבדי אדוני. וכל העם עונים, hallelujah. And everybody responds, hallelujah. וחוזר ואומר, הללו את שם אדוני. וכל העם עונים, everyone responds, hallelujah. וחוזר ואומר, יהי שם אדוני מבורך מעתה ועד עולם. And everyone responds, hallelujah. וכן על כל דבר ודבר, עד שנמצאו עונים בכל ההלל, הללויה 123 פעמים, 100, very good, 123 times. סימן להם, the way to remember that, שנותיו של אהרון, the years of Aaron HaKohen, how long he lived, was that many times. So if you look in the PDF right now that's there in front of you, you see that PDF that I attached? It says there, hallelujah, and then it'll be hallelujah, hallelujah avdei Adonai, hallelujah, hallelujah Shem Adonai, hallelujah, Yishem Adonai mevach mata v'adonam. Like that, the whole chapter. Look in Halakha Yud Gimel. וכן כשהקורא מגיע לראש כל פרק ופרק, and every time the Chazan reaches the first sentence of the chapter, הם חוזרים ואומרים מה שאמר. You don't say hallelujah, you repeat what he said. כיצד, what does that mean? Look at the second paragraph on page 490. כשהוא אומר בצאת ישראל ממצרים, they respond, בצאת ישראל ממצרים. Then he continues, בית יעקב לעם לועז, and then you respond, hallelujah, right? And that, the whole way, עד שאומר, אהבתי כשמע אדוני את קולי תחנוני, וכל העם חוזרים ואומרים, אהבתי כשמע אדוני את קולי תחנוני, וכן כשאומר קורא, הללו את אדוני כל גויים, כל העם חוזרים ואומרים, הללו את אדוני כל גויים. So really, the minhag was you say hallelujah 123 times, except for the first of every paragraph, that you repeat the first few words the Chazan says. Yes, Elchanan.
I have a question. Why don't we do that?
That's a great question, because we're not done teaching the class. Yeah? Says Rabbenu HaRambam, HaKoreh Omer, the reader says, Ana Adonai Hoshiana, Vehem Onim, and they respond, Acharav, Ana Adonai Hoshiana. Af al pi she'eno rosh haperek, even though that's not the head of a chapter, that's the minhag. הוא אומר, אנא אדוני יצליחנה, ואין אומרים, אנא אדוני יצליחנה. הוא אומר, ברוך הבא, ואנחנו אומרים, בשם אדוני. ואם היה מקרא את ההלל קטן, או עבד, או אישה, and if the one who is leading the Hallel was a child, or a slave, or a woman, עונה אחריהם, מה שהם אומרים, מילה במילה, בכל הלל. You just respond after them, not hallelujah, but every word that they say. וזהו המנהג הראשון. And this is the early minhag. The original minhag. Uvo ra'ui lelech, and this is the way that you should do it. Aval bizmanim elu, but nowadays, says Rabbenu HaRambam, ראיתי בכל המקומות מנהגות משונות בקריאתו ובעניית העם. I saw different customs, and I'm not sure that meshunot, it could be derogatory. You see something is meshuneh, you mean it's derogatory, but it could also just mean, he means minhagim shonim. Could mean. ואין אחד מהם דומה לאחר, and one minhag of a community is different than every community. Everywhere you go, they have different way to say Hallel. But it used to be that people said Hallel this way. And if you look at that chart that I sent you, you'll see all of the places. Now, the chart that I sent you, there is one major difference between the Rambam and the way the Yemenites say Hallel until today. It's very minor. You probably wouldn't even notice it.
I can't hear you. Just for the last maybe 30 seconds. So.
Can everyone else hear me?
Oh, I can hear you now.
Did
I
ever,
hear you.
Marlene, it might have been your computer. So says Says the Rambam has here a little difference. You see where it says Odecha Kiani Tani on the chart? Rambam has from there on Hallelujah, and the Yemenite community has repeating the sentences. It doesn't actually matter. It's the same idea. I want you to hear for a minute what Hallel sounds like in the Yemenite community. This was just a recording I found now at the beginning of the shiur. I'm sure there are better recordings. And for those of you that are going to watch this on YouTube, I don't know what you're going to hear or not, but let me share a screen now. I want you to follow along in your Siddur or in your PDF that I sent you of the Hallel. Okay? Now, I didn't do it right. I have to stop, right? Stop. I have to share screen with the sound, right? I don't know which one I want to choose. Mono or stereo? Baruch? What does high fidelity mean? Is it gonna cheat on me this spin? Okay, let's do like this. All right.
Didn't sound very high fidelity when they played it.
Fidelity is what they used to call really good recordings back in the 50s and 60s. It's
Oh.
not stereo.
Thank you, Zev. So I'm unfortunately, this recording is not such a great recording, but from the dozens of Yemenite recordings I found online, this is the only one that I found that's clear that he repeats the Hallelujah the way it's on the side of the Siddur. So just take a look. I'm going to play for it. How long is it here? A minute or so. Let's listen to it, okay? It's the blessing. So he finished the first chapter now of the Hallel, right? Listen one more second. When he begins the next chapter, they're not going to respond Hallelujah. They're going to repeat after him the first words. Listen. Now back to Hallelujah. So this that you heard right now is the way the Rambam is telling you the Chachamim who made the Hallel, this is how they say Hallel. Yeah, it tells you on the inch. You know, as we travel throughout Galut takes a toll on us. We move away from the way we used to do things. That's not the only place I'm going to show you that we know how we did something. And today we don't necessarily do it that way anymore. Now, here, though, is always fascinating for me is then you hear people say, well, I don't know if I can trust the kashrut and a Yemenite hechsher. I don't know if the Yemenite tefillin is going to be kasher for me. I don't know. The one thing you have to do is to relax a little bit and say, can I be the people who came before you, who do things better than you, somehow are going to be less good than you? That's something, a little lesson in humility for people who say tradition, 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 and there's some people that actually still have a tradition to do things the way the tradition says. A little bit of humility can go a very long way. Now, it also makes sense to you that that's why Hallel is called Hallel. You literally, the whole Hallel are saying Hallelujah, Hallelujah, Hallelujah. And by the way, I'm going to tell you something now. I'm going to tell you now something that's going to remind you of Rabbi Eliyahu ben Amos. Maybe the fact that when you go to a church somewhere, Lahavdin, and the whole time the guy is speaking, can I get a hallelujah? Hallelujah. Why do you do like that? Why? What are they doing? He's in the middle of talking, they start screaming, hallelujah. Why are you screaming in the middle of the guy's speech? But it's probably in the memory of people that took from us something. This is me saying, not Rabbi but I'm saying, I'm telling you, right? They took even the screaming hallelujah in the middle of somebody who's praying. Even that is considered a minhag that comes from Am Yisrael. So for right now, I think I wanted you just to hear this, and I want you to understand that the minhag of Hallel at the end of the day is a minhag. So however you do the Hallel, it's okay. By the way, Harav Kapach writes this. At the end of this chapter, Harav Kapach writes, let me read it to you. Okay, I'm going to tell you so that, because Al-Khanan asked a good question, so why don't you do like that? So Harav Kapach writes, mamash, in his last sentence here. He says, he quotes the Rambam, who says that nowadays everybody does something different. So Harav Kapach, v'imken, and if so, איזה מנהג שנוהגים העם, אין לפקפק בו. Any minhag that you see by Hallel that people do, you shouldn't make any problems about it. ולא למחות, and not even to protest it. הגם שדרכי להקפיד מאוד על אלו, אשר חדשים מקרוב באו לשנות שום נוסח בתפילה. Said even though Harav Kapach said it's my way usually that I'm really tough on people who change any minhag when it comes to tefillah. So, but in this particular case of Hallel, Rambam told us seemingly not to be so particular about how you do it. But it would be nice, maybe once in a while, to try a Hallel on the way that Hallel is done. But I'm sharing with you, again, that the biggest part of the story of Chanukah, it's not the oil, it's not the pancakes, it's not the donuts, it's not the Hava Nagila, not the lights. There's a mitzvah of candles, and the whole other mitzvah is to give thanks to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And when you give thanks to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we have beautiful ways to give thanks to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Some of them go back to the Talmud, some of them go back to other places, but all of them are trying to accomplish the same thing. That on Hallel, on Chanukah, every Jewish person is united with two mitzvot. The mitzvah of lighting candles, of publicizing the miracle, and the mitzvah of saying Hallel. If today we study the laws of saying Hallel, then next week, B'ezrat Hashem Yitbarach, will be entirely on how do you fulfill the mitzvah of lighting the Chanukah candles. I'll answer Chanat's question, where do you put the candles, how do you light the candles, why we light them inside, why not outside? All of those questions, B'ezrat Hashem, will already be for next week. Chavre, thank you for learning with me tonight. It's cool mitzvot.